Thank you very much, folks. Today we've heard the Liberals are going to announce their platform, and I just want to remind Canadians that Mr. Trudeau and the Liberals like to announce a lot of promises, but they've consistently broken them. And not only have they broken them, but they've chosen to help those at the very top. I can think of so many examples. They talked about the importance of fighting climate change and making it a priority, and then they bought a pipeline for $4.5 billion. They talked about how they would be there for people and families, middle-class families who needed help, and they gave $14 billion away to the wealthiest corporations in the last fall economic statement, while families are struggling with the cost of housing and medication. They promised to lower the cost of medications, but instead they caved to pharmaceutical lobbyists, who they met with over 875 times, and rather protect the profits of Big Pharma than lower the costs for families. Again and again, Mr. Trudeau and the Liberals choose to help out the powerful and the wealthy, and it hurts families. So they're going to make some promises again today, but let's look at their track record. Again and again, they choose to hurt families. They took $3 billion away from students who were profited off of. They were in student debt, and their student debt was charged massive interest, but on the other side, they forgave $6 billion in loans to wealthy corporations. That's the contrast. That's what the Liberals do. They talk a lot, say a lot of nice promises, say a lot of pretty words, but in the end, it's empty promises and they hurt people. And that's what I want folks to know today. Donc aujourd'hui, on va voir la plateforme des libéraux, et ce qu'ils font tout le temps, c'est de donner des belles paroles, mais des promesses vides. Ils ont dit qu'ils vont défendre l'environnement, mais ce qu'ils ont fait, ils ont acheté un pipeline. Ils ont parlé d'aider des familles, mais ils ont donné un grand cadeau aux les plus riches, 14 milliards de dollars pour les plus riches multinationales et grandes compagnies, et ils n'ont pas aidé les familles qui ont besoin d'aide pour le logement abordable. Ils ont investi 19% moins que M. Harper pour le logement abordable, mais ils ont dit que c'est une crise de logement. Tout le temps, ce qu'on voit, c'est un gouvernement avec les libéraux qui donne des belles paroles, mais pas des actions concrètes, et on va changer ça. On est différents, on veut faire les choses différemment.
So on the Liberals platform, you talked about it. So sources tell CTV that there will be an increase in the student grant from $1,200 to reach $4,200 a year. Extended grace period on payments after graduation from 6 months to 2 years, and students will not have to make payments in their loans until the earning of $35,000 a year after graduation. They will also allow new parents to take an interest-free break from paying off loans until their youngest child turns 5. I'm wondering what you think about some of these and how it compares to your policy, and whether you also feel like they're sort of going after some of the same voter base.
They had 4 years. They had 4 years. If they wanted to do any of these things, they were in a majority situation with all the power. They did none of these things. In 4 years, what did they do, though? Let's look at their actual actions. What's the concrete evidence we have? In 4 years, they picked the pockets of students who were in student debt. They charged them $3 billion in interest. They profited off of students, $3 billion. But on the contrast, they gave $6 billion away in loans. And in fact, they forgave $6 billion in loans to the wealthiest corporations. That's what they do. So they can say all they want now, what's their track record? Their track record is this. They help out the wealthiest corporations and they hurt students. And they've continued to hurt students.
As a follow-up, CTV's also confirmed that if re-elected, the Liberals would ban gay conversion therapy in the criminal code. Would you do the same thing?
Obviously, we would do the same thing. We've been talking about this for years, but I don't understand how this is a no-cost thing to do. We've been calling for this ban for years. Why couldn't they have done it over the past 4 years when they had a majority? They had a complete majority in the House. They had 4 years. This is something that is so obvious. Why wasn't it done in 4 years? Again, this is Liberals trotting out promises, trotting out empty promises and then pretty words during an election, which they could have done 4 years ago if they really cared. Donc maintenant, il parle d'arrêter un processus qui est tellement mauvaise, quelque chose qu'on a toujours dit qu'on est contre ça. Et maintenant, il dit, après 4 ans qu'ils ont eu une majorité, tout le pouvoir de le faire, maintenant il dit, oh, on veut abolir cette pratique. Et moi, je la trouve incroyable que pourquoi il ne peut pas le faire pendant le temps qu'ils ont eu une majorité.
Earlier in the campaign, you weren't taking aim at Trudeau, and it was very much, I guess, a bit softer. What's changed now that you're kind of taking aim at him day after day right now?
I just want to make it really clear that I've always wanted to show the contrast. People have an opportunity to vote in this election, and I want people to know that there's a choice. And they've got Mr. Trudeau, who's scaring people into choosing, into voting, and to not. Their plan is this. They're trying to scare people into saying, oh, this is worse than us. But that is not the way people should vote. They should vote for what they believe in. They should vote for what they care in. And if you look at the track record of the Liberals, they've consistently said a lot of nice promises. They've said a lot of nice words, but they've made decisions that have hurt families. And I want people to know that that's not the way they have to go. They're not stuck between bad and worse. They shouldn't be scared into being afraid of voting for Conservatives and then end up voting for Liberals just because they're afraid. They should vote for what they believe in. And Mr. Trudeau and the Liberals have consistently shown that they've chosen to protect and help out the people at the very top, and that's hurt families. Donc, j'ai voulu toujours montrer qu'il y a une option dans cette élection. Et les libéraux donnent toujours des belles paroles, mais chaque fois qu'on a des enjeux tellement importants, ils choisissent d'aider les plus riches au lieu d'aider monsieur, madame, tout le monde. Et ça fait mal aux familles. Et ça m'inquiète qu'il y a une option maintenant de voter dans les élections. Mais les libéraux toujours disent qu'il y a quelque chose qui est pire que nous. Mais ce n'est pas la façon de voter, de seulement penser de ce qui est pire de nous. On veut donner d'espoir, qu'on peut voter pour quelqu'un qui va lutter pour vous, qui va se battre pour vous.
Gang violence is a problem in Surrey. Can you tell us about what you're hearing and what your plan is?
Yeah, gang violence is certainly a problem in a lot of urban centers across Canada. A lot of the experts are talking about how we can make investments directly in youth. We need to help out young people. That's where all the community organizations that I met with, all the experts that I met with have said we need to invest directly in youth. So we're making a commitment to help out those families that have lost loved ones, those families that are worried about the future. They want to see some change. They want to see young people have a brighter future. And we want to invest directly into youth programs, $100 million to help out with things like after-school programs, with youth drop-in centers, just to help and provide supports for young people so they have a brighter future. Oui. Donc, il y a un grand problème de la violence dans les centres urbains. C'est quelque chose qui est tellement important à Surrey aussi, mais plusieurs endroits. Et ce que tous les experts ont dit, ils ont dit qu'on a besoin de faire des investissements dans la jeunesse, parce que la jeunesse souvent manque d'espoir pour l'avenir. Donc, on veut s'assurer que les familles n'ont pas peur pour l'avenir, n'ont pas peur que peut-être leur enfant va être dans une mauvaise compagnie. Donc, ce qu'on va faire, c'est d'investir directement dans les programmes pour la jeunesse.
So a lot of people in Surrey have been calling for more funds for the RCMP, saying they don't have enough officers to combat the problem. They need more funding. Would you consider giving more money to the RCMP to directly help fight gang violence?
The first step, what we're proposing today, is to invest directly in young people. That's what a lot of experts are calling for. They need help with young people and youth programs. So that's our first focus. We also know that organized crime is fueling a lot of gang violence, and one of the ways to tackle organized crime directly is money laundering. Money laundering has been cited by a lot of experts as fueling the gang wars and fueling a lot of violence, and so we want to tackle that directly, something that Mr. Trudeau has completely failed to do. Mr. Trudeau doesn't understand the severity of the problem, hasn't responded, has neglected Surrey. Surrey feels like they've been ignored, and they need someone who's on their side. So we've got a plan to tackle money laundering with direct investments in the RCMP for an anti-money laundering department, particularly here in BC. That's something that we're going to invest in. And we also need to make a federal registry to prevent criminals from using anonymous numbered companies to hide their money. These are two steps that would help us. Tackle the organized crime that is fueling gang violence.
Sorry, but so you wouldn't provide additional funding to help them hire more officers in Surrey?
These are our two announcements today. We'll have more announcements around what we do to help out families and help out communities that are struggling with this problem, and that would include other measures. But today we're focused on two steps: fighting organized crime and helping young people with direct youth program investments. Oui, en fait, on a annoncé qu'on va aider les GRC directement pour la lutte contre le blanchiment d'argent. Et pour faire ça, on veut mettre d'argent directement dans un fonds pour financer une partie de la GRC spécifiquement pour régler le problème de le blanchiment d'argent qui va pour financer la crime, pour financer les gangs et les violences.
A lot of kids in Surrey that are youth that are involved in gangs, so from middle class families, not necessarily impoverished by any stretch. Like after school programs, how do they actually help that demographic?
Yeah, so we've spoken to the experts on the ground in Surrey. Many of those organizations say that young people don't have a lot of hope, don't have a lot of future. They see that things are really difficult. They don't know the best ways to move ahead. A lot of times families are working really hard. Mom and dad are away working hard, saving up money. They are doing all right financially, but they're not getting a lot of supports and a lot of guidance and mentorship. So all the experts have said, one of the things, the most important and powerful way to help out young people who end up going down the wrong path is investing in programs after school, so they have someone to meet with, a mentor to guide them, to help them out after school, and drop-in programs so that people have positive associations and positive directions, that they're given advice and mentorship that way. That's what the experts have said, and I want to respond to that.
Seems to be a go-to line. Everyone says, okay, we're going to do more of these programs, and you know.
It's just not been done though. The reality is that we know it's needed, we know people are desperate for this investment, but no one's really stepped up and done it. Liberals haven't, and these youth organizations have come to me saying, we've got programs, we've got mentorship programs, we've got everything in place, but we don't have the funding, we don't have the core funding, and we need more help. Oui. Donc, on a déjà parlé avec tous les organismes, les organisations qui disent qu'on a les programmes, on peut aider des familles, on peut aider de la jeunesse, mais on n'a pas le financement, on n'a pas les investissements pour continuer de faire ce qu'il faut faire. Donc, on va répondre à ce besoin de maintenant avec un investissement.
Elizabeth May is going to be in town today announcing her plan on AI and automation, so I was hoping to get your plan on that.
Well, we think it's the way of the future, and something that we've got to make sure we're ahead of the curve on. So we'll make some announcements about how we'll support technology and innovation. And we've got a climate bank, which is a way to create an opportunity for entrepreneurs in the green sector, in the clean sector, to make investments in their companies and grow them. But right now, I want to make it clear, we've got Mr. Trudeau out there telling people they've got to be afraid of where they vote and making people vote out of fear. I want to say to them, Mr. Trudeau has let you down. He has failed people, and I know people have been telling me that he's let them down. And I want folks to know they don't have to choose between bad and worse. There is another option. They can choose someone who's going to fight for them and be in it for them.
So there's no plan yet, or no announced plan yet on tackling automation of labor?
We'll have more to say on that in the upcoming months or the upcoming weeks. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Merci. How's it going, man?